It's a town full of losers, and I'm pulling out here to win, everybody. Welcome to the Football Ramble. The 2028 Euros are heading this way, and Eden Hazard's retired. It's Wednesday, 11th of October. I'm Marcus Speller.
I'm Pete Donaldson.
I'm Jim Campbell.
And I'm Vish and Pete.
Hi, everybody. It's a wonderful Wednesday here on the Football Ramble. Bit of Bruce Springsteen to start the show, Jim. Don't pretend you didn't know.
I didn't, but
See,
it's nice
he's still
to hear
going. Thanks to Nick for emailing us today's intro line. You can choose the intro line for next Wednesday's show. Just shine up, and then sign up.
Shine up, straighten up and fly right, for crying out loud.
For the Football Ramble Patreon using the link in the show description.
Marcus, I can't get the Paul Russell song Booth Thang out of my head. And it's been in there for 3 days. And I was very unwell yesterday. And I could not sleep. And all I could hear is that fucking song going round my head with that riff from Best of My Love. I just cannot.
I don't know the song.
Stop.
I don't know the
Is that
artist.
because
As soon as you hear it,
And
it will never get out of
And
your
at
head.
times, Peter, I feel like I don't know you.
I think you just have to listen to it, surely. Purge it.
Yeah, they say that when you kind of think about a song too much, it's because you haven't listened to it enough.
Right.
Because it's like an unresolved puzzle.
Ah, okay.
Huh. See, I get this about twice a year with Thong Song, as we know.
But you just wear a lot of thongs.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. That's,
do wear a lot
that's
of
how you go
thongs.
through it.
Every time
Yeah.
Jim puts them on, and you put one pair on for about 6 months, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So, yeah, it all makes
What's
sense.
getting dirty? There's no fabric.
It
Come
makes
on.
sense in the end. What's
It
getting
does.
dirty? Jim's parties.
like to refute
Jim's
that.
party is getting dirtier.
Talking of dirty parties, we're hosting the Euros. Come
Yeah.
on. It's official.
Yes.
The UK and Ireland 2028, baby.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to the international press getting the whole UK and Ireland thing all mixed up and upsetting a whole lot of people.
Order your flares now. Stick them up your asses.
I'm starting to feel like my entire life.
Jim, that was a nice callback, wasn't it? To the flare up the bottom.
I
Flare up the
don't think
bottom,
it was even a callback. It was simply a reference, and it was appreciated.
It was cool to arms, is what it was.
He's probably got a better job than us now.
Cool to bums.
You were going to say something perhaps sensible.
Well, I don't know that it is going to be that sensible, but I'm just starting to feel like my entire life might just be Euro '96 nostalgia. I think it's
Right.
just never going to
Yeah.
stop because we're going to have waves and waves of it now.
No, we've moved
For the
on.
next
We've got
5 years.
We've moved on from Euro '96 now. I'm quite.
Bet
happy.
we haven't.
Yeah,
I
we
bet
have.
We haven't.
I bet you.
We're doing the Beckham documentary in a bit. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll have year 2000 nostalgia, where we were all scumbags. It seems.
Can we get one of those gigs like those comedians who you never really seem to see on stage who are always talking heads in those kind of nostalgia pieces?
Yeah,
That's right, yeah, we can do
Premier
that.
League years. Pete Donaldson.
Yeah.
Channel 5. Thank you.
There we are. You see.
£200.
£200.
An hour
Didn't get
or
the
a flat
repeats.
fee?
Flat fee. Didn't get the
Flat-
repeats.
How many times have we got to tell
I
you?
know.
When they say £200, it's not a flat fee. Every hour you're in there. Yeah, but it's happening. The UK and Ireland will host the Euros in 2028. Of course, none of the host nations will be given automatic qualification. That is a blow for for 4 of the 5 countries in that equation.
Is it kind of like?
Yeah, that's a dig, Fish.
No, but it's true, isn't it? And it probably because England pulled rank and said, yeah, we don't actually, you know what, we don't want to just have a freebie. We want to work for
Yeah.
Well, it's fine.
And then they
Well,
looked
that's
around
right,
at the
yeah.
other. They looked around at the other nations and went, "That's what we're going to do." And the Scots immediately went, "Well, we'll do that as well then." And then everyone, oh no!
It's all a bit. Do you remember when there was the CEO of the identity theft company in America, and he was so confident of his own product, he put his social security number on loads of billboards around America,
Silly.
and he
Is this John McAfee?
instantly,
Is that not something
no, different guy, but he instantly got his got identity theft thieved like 13 times, and like it's just a bad idea.
Maybe that's what he wanted.
I just think we're going to be hoisted by our own.
Yeah. Well, you think we're not going to
jubilation,
qualify?
excitement. I'm not gonna qualify.
We're due and not qualifying,
Yeah,
aren't we?
exactly,
It's been a
we
while.
are,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
turns out Sean Dyche's England don't make it to Euro 2028. Well, yeah, so England, they rejected the chance for automatic qualification, of course. However, it is said that UEFA will keep 2 spots open in reserve to any who fail to qualify.
That's embarrassing.
Now, as you know,
What does that mean?
2 doesn't go around 5 when
No.
it comes to places, does it, Jim? So if more than 2 teams fail to qualify within the UK and Irish teams, then the teams with the best records in the campaign will make it.
It's not really
So-
a backup spot. There's not a random backup spot,
So-
though, is it? It's just literally
Taking 2 spots
Taking
off of
2
someone
spots.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I will look forward to is Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland getting behind England in that qualification, because that will help them out if England qualify, of course.
Yeah.
And I've already disrespected all the other nations. Jim, can you be Tony Blair in this equation?
I mean, yeah, it's all going to be great. They're all going to qualify on merit.
And we're all going to win the tournament. It'll
We
be
are.
shared
It
five
would, yeah,
ways.
absolutely. Yes.
Good.
What do you think about the split of the stadiums? Because
It's inevitable.
it is. I'm going to put this out there.
Go on.
I don't think Wembley should have a final.
After
I like
it
that,
was
yeah.
naughty last time.
Yeah, although
Completely
Marcus,
agree.
you were at the final and you claim nothing happened, don't
Yeah.
you? You repeatedly say it was all made
Yeah.
up nonsense.
I was also
all a load of woke nonsense.
I was also at the final and told by people who were affected by it that something did happen.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah. So are you basically saying because Wembley misbehaved last
No,
time?
I just think just move it around.
Yeah.
Hampden, great.
In terms of attendance, though, obviously Wembley is the big
Strong argument for it. You want the most people possible to see the final.
and also
And they're letting loads for free anyway.
They
So
are.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, and also, learn from your mistakes. And Wembley has very much said, yes, we've learned from our
Aren't they going to
mistakes.
spend like £100 billion on security?
Reinforcing it,
Yeah.
And
we've
they'll
put
get
a
it
lock
wrong.
on each door.
Which
well
we
done.
forgot to lock them. Round of applause.
But it's basically impossible, isn't it? Because of the way they've built up the area around Wembley Stadium.
Right.
So because they have those flats there that
Yeah.
people live in.
Right.
Yeah, you can't
You can't
what-
stop people from.
Yeah, so you
Right.
can't.
So,
So
in
basically,
other Champions League games, I mean, I appreciate it was an absolute shit show when Liverpool played Real Madrid in that final in France. In the Stade de France, but you were meant to have in other stadiums. They have a sort of what they call like a sort of a defensive ring around the stadiums because a lot of stadiums are outside of a city or whereas Wembley is quite congested. But yeah,
Couldn't do that in Cardiff. It's kind of central, isn't it?
Right, exactly. Well, you couldn't do it in St James's Park either, which is
No.
one of the host stadiums.
I don't
as
think
well.
that's going to be hosting the final.
No, I don't think so either. But they
Old
are.
Trafford. That's in a good nick now, isn't it?
It's not one of the. Yeah, funnily enough,
Genuinely,
Maybe they'll get some
really
government funding.
embarrassing for United that it's not in the final 10. Surely.
well, I don't. I mean, how hard did they go for it? I mean,
well, it's probably actually quite a good thing because it's Well, that's one thing. Did they really pitch for it? But also like
the Etihad is
just a bit of a wake up call as
Yeah.
well.
Also, the reasons they've given, to be fair to them, are that they can't guarantee that it will be available because redevelopment work
Sure.
is scheduled. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me looked at it and thought, well, blimey, some of these stadiums aren't complete. The Everton's new stadium, for example. You obviously have the one in Northern Ireland, Casement Park, and a lot of controversy around that, and I'd encourage anybody to do their reading on it. But elsewhere, you look at one or two, and you think some of the great stadiums that are seeped in history that we have in this country, and you think, actually, okay, St James's Park's there, obviously, well, Wembley's still a new stadium, I suppose, but the Tottenham Stadium's a new one, Etihad's sort of fairly new. Some might argue that, well, come on, there's been enough sort of recent history you could argue there.
Anfield's
but
not there, isn't it? Which is a
Anfield's
shame.
not
Something
there.
to do with the pitch dimensions, I think.
Yeah, perhaps they didn't want it. I don't, I mean, there's all these kind of things. But England have 6 of the stadiums involved in the Euros, of course, and then you have one in each of the other countries, in Dublin, Belfast, in Cardiff, and in Glasgow. Hampden's always going to get the nod. I mean, the only other country you would say perhaps could host more than one game would be in Scotland, where Ibrox or Celtic Park could be used. That is in the same city, and they tend not to like that. Because I suppose, because you got 2 in not just London, in sort of in the North London area, with Spurs and
Well,
Wembley.
3 if you count Wembley. Oh, sorry, I thought you included the Emirates as a potential.
But they're
But
not.
they're not
Oh, I
good
know,
enough,
but I
yeah.
thought you were talking on a wider sense.
No,
About the ones that obviously should have been chosen.
I know this is.
Sinsel Bank was a bit of a swerve, I thought.
Yeah, I know this is
Weird.
an unwise thing to do, Jim, nowadays, but I am just sticking to the facts here, okay, and what is going to actually happen. But so I think that's probably it. But we know the 10, and I honestly think this country in Ireland, it's a great. It's small. You can get around. I mean, we'll.
Well, we don't know about that.
Well, HS2 will be finished by then, won't it?
Hopefully, you'll be able to get around.
So that'll get you to Villa Park.
Yeah, if you're playing at Wembley and at Villa Park, you won't believe how quickly you'll be.
It'll be like being in Japan.
You'll be able to watch the first half of one game at Wembley, second half at Villa Park. Job's a good one. But I'm very pleased to see that this is going to be the case. Harry Kane's already said that he's got unfinished business and he wants to be still around playing, have the kind of longevity that Messi and Ronaldo have had in their careers, and clean up when it comes to Euro 2028, Jim.
Yeah. Can I just say, doesn't it make more sense to just do the whole thing in London?
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah.
I thought that.
It's
Better. Jim, have we
Better,
not?
innit?
It's like because it's better than the rest of the country.
I mean,
everything costs more, so you get fewer undesirables come in.
and the money circulates as well.
Exactly.
You spend more money,
exactly.
you get more money,
And they'll get some money elsewhere.
It'll trickle down, won't it?
Trickle down, yeah.
Exactly.
Trickle up the country.
It's a powerhouse up there, isn't it?
Powerhouse.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Imagine what
I
they could
agree.
charge for
Is
a
anyone
pint.
still listening? Is anybody still out there? We've disrespected everybody.
Sorry, you were going to ask me an actual question.
How are you ashamed
The
of
actual
yourself?
question.
Lights go down.
Yeah, we need some production for the actual question.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-doom.
I suppose there is a concern that as these tournaments are being handed out, Italy and Turkey in 2032, there's big chat of 2034 World Cup that it's going to go to Saudi Arabia. There's talk of a last-minute bid between Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
But the concern is that it seems to be you're only getting one bid now for these tournaments.
Yeah.
And I suppose the concern with that is that if the bid is maybe not up to scratch, or it's perhaps a controversial bid, or there's any controversy around it, you want the plethora of choice.
You do, but bids cost a lot of money these days, don't they?
And we don't have all that voting bollocks and so on like we used to do.
But also, FIFA and UEFA and everybody sort of involved in the governance of football is making a big point of how they want tournaments to be in places that are essentially ready to go in terms of hosting them, to replenish the coffers after the pandemic. Because obviously nobody suffered more than the football associations.
No, that's always the case.
There's also the thing you got to remember about like the various legacies of other nations that have hosted,
the white elephant stadiums are something that they want to sort of stop doing.
Yeah, I think
particularly in South Africa. So.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, you're basically talking about Blatter's policy of like saying, right, we're going to go round. Obviously, with the Euros, it is just in one continent, but we're going to go round the continents, and it has to be in this one, and then it has to be in this one.
Right. Okay.
Because you're then taking the pressure off and say, right, like you used to, who fancies it? And of course, if there is a bid from a part of the world which has not hosted a World Cup before, as we've seen in recent years, and they're ready to go, then that would probably be more attractive. I understand the corruption and da-da-da-da. But I suppose the big question is, Euro 2028, Vish, who do you fancy for it?
Us?
Yeah.
What a stupid question. Harry Kane's already said we're going to win it.
Actual question answered.
The actual question answered.
Yeah, a very rare thing nowadays. So England back-to-back Euro winners then?
Well, you think about it. He, he'll be in his prime. As you said, he'll be on a par with Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
He'll be in London, the whole thing, so he knows London well.
And also, next summer, it's in Germany. Well, look where he is.
Yeah.
It's a home tournament for him.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing for everyone else. Don't show up. You know what?
Don't show
What's the point? Don't worry about it. Just
Leave
go
it.
somewhere else.
It is
Leave
expensive.
I'm telling you.
Save
It
yourself
is,
the money and the
yeah.
effort and the humiliation. Just
Yeah.
don't come. That's the spirit, isn't it? Don't come. 2028, don't bother coming.
Is that global
You're
Britain?
not welcome.
Is that global Britain gym in action? Sadly, I think it is.
Euro 2028. Get out of the way.
Coming through. We're coming through. We're coming through. Don't bother. England's coming through.
Right, well, that's that chat.
That's that
then.
sorted.
Oh dear. And should we turn our attention to some international football that's been played this week?
Yeah.
Tomorrow evening, big one, Spain hosting Scotland.
Yeah.
Come on.
Spain seem unnaturally angry about this.
They're really upset.
I
aren't they?
don't think that Scotland are going to qualify.
Has
there.
Scotland been putting haggis in their paella or something? Is it? No, you don't do that.
You know what?
That'd
That would be
delicious.
It would be
delicious.
good,
Fuck,
though,
I would
that.
eat the hell out of that.
Come on.
You're doing it
You
again.
don't
This
even
is
know
this is
what
what
you
happened
don't
to
even know what
Jamie
you're
Oliver.
doing.
He basically went, chorizo sausage really nice, isn't it?
So much
And I
of
like
that.
paella. I
Yes,
think that would
yeah.
make sense to put it, and they all
It's
kicked
very,
off there.
very rich in fats, rich in kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
nice.
And then people say, "Oh, but what if we put like bacon in a Sunday roast?" And you go, "It's not a bad idea, that."
Yeah.
So someone, the
No idea is a bad idea.
the Herald Scotland has made not only haggis paella, patatas bravas hot.
There you go. There you go.
And finally, for now, I'm Bruce Sangria.
Yeah, you can't argue with that, Jim. You cannot
Well
argue
done,
with
the
any of
Herald
it.
Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, they're going to qualify for Euro 2024 if they beat Spain. I think they're going to do it. I think
You
this is.
do?
I think it's going to be a
I
famous.
don't know.
Yeah, can you really think they'll get a win? I think Rodri's,
Yeah, all right,
Rodri's
okay.
so angry that
I was
It
caught up
might
in a
not
whole
just let that
Euros hosting qualifying, like euphoric moment there, and then when you literally said, "Are you sure they're going to win?" I have suddenly thought, probably not.
Well, I mean, if they can lose and Norway can beat Cyprus, and then they just need Spain to win or draw against Norway on the weekend. So
There we are. That's it.
Oh, so they could qualify this week.
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
It's not like
they're there.
Do or die.
They are there.
I know,
pretty
but
much.
have you heard what they're saying, Spain? They're livid.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know
true.
they get so angry.
Rodri
I
accused-
always thought it was the Bulls that were the angry ones.
Outrageous. Rodri, is there any country we're not going to disrespect today, do you think?
No, it's Euro.
Not
Who won the
disrespect them,
Euros?
Just leaning into stereotypes
We
that we
own-
all enjoy.
We own the Euros. We're going to put the Euros in the British Museum.
Next up, Wales.
That's where it belongs now. You didn't even win it. Doesn't matter. So Rodri, of course, when Scotland beat Spain 2-0 back at March, Rodri accused Scotland of playing rubbish football. And then he since doubled down, as we're told to nowadays. You know,
He literally
did not
back
back
down, double down.
He was like, "What are the Scots saying about this?" He saw Limmy and he went, "Okay." He said, "The match in Glasgow was very rare. They were clinical with their shots, and we weren't, which is unusual. It was one of Spain's worst games in recent times. Do we want revenge? Yes,
But that's quite a diplomatic way of saying what he said after the game.
yes."
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's doubling down.
No.
I mean, that's quite a plateauy thing.
Yeah,
you know,
but he's
I don't
still
think he's-
angry though, which was what Jim's
Yeah.
original point was, and he'll be fired up for it. So yes, I think Spain will be looking for that revenge. I mean, I can't remember the last time Spain wanted revenge against Scotland.
No,
Jim?
it's a strange one, isn't it? But it puts Scotland in a really interesting position mentally, doesn't it? Because they don't really have to win, do
No,
they?
no.
Because the odds are stacked so heavily in their favour that they can probably play with a bit of freedom that they otherwise wouldn't, which it gives them such a huge advantage.
It does, and I think that is the beauty of how their campaign has gone. When you have
to win it.
when a campaign like goes so well, you know, losing your toughest game on paper is not seen as the damning thing. You know, if you're scrambling for points, you think, "Oh bloody hell, we've got to go away to Spain and get something." Any team in the world would find that a tall order, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Again, you don't go into it going, it doesn't really matter, let's just put our feet up, lads. But Scotland have been so effective and so good in this qualification campaign that they are pretty much there. I mean, only, McGinn said, only our wee country could mess it up from here. But the way they're playing is, it would be madness if they did mess it up as well. And they've got Scott McTominay, Peter. He scored 2 goals for Manchester United at the weekend in injury time.
And it was needed.
It was needed, yeah.
It was needed at that point.
Yeah,
It was a great moment, I thought.
Yeah, he won't be able to get on the end of any Harry Maguire assists, of course.
No.
I think Harry Maguire's done enough for the Scotland team of late. But he is second top scorer in Euro qualifying with 6 goals, ahead of Harry Kane, Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. Only Romelu Lukaku has scored more.
Nice.
And I tell you what that means is, if he goes to Saudi Arabia at some point in his career, surely, like Mitrovic, top scorer at Nations League, they'll have that up, top
They'll have
scorer
a banner,
in the Euro
yeah.
qualifying.
Is he a misappropriated striker? Are we learning this now?
Yeah, it could be the case. I don't know. It's a bit James McFadden, this, isn't it, Vish?
What a player.
Yeah, because McFadden was not starting that many times for Everton at the time. I think he was sort of in and out, and McTominay's been the same at Manchester United. But when they went and played for Scotland, they would get the goals. I'm saying that Scott McTominay is going to score the only goal of the game from 25 yards. A la Scotland v
Wow.
France in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Mikel Landreau tipping it into the roof of his net, yeah. The McTominay thing is very interesting for Scotland because there was a stage where he was playing for United in midfield and then playing for Scotland as part of a back three.
Yeah.
He's now not playing for United in midfield, and he's now playing as a more advanced midfielder.
Can do
But
it all.
Yeah, well, he's as I've always said about him, he's so versatile.
He is versatile.
So misunderstood.
Where do you think his best position is? Because it clearly is in the
I
midfield.
genuinely don't know. It is in midfield. It's not a deep midfield because his passing range isn't quite there. He was going through this weird phase of never being open. I don't know if that was a deliberate ploy in that, like, just don't give me the ball.
Yeah.
Like if one of us played in a proper Premier League midfield, we'd try and hide. It looked a little bit like that.
Yeah, okay, right.
But I think it's also down to the fact that if you look at the players Scotland have brought through and the way Clark's playing as well, it's just a bit more engaging and
Yeah.
it's a bit more back and forth. So it suits someone like McTominay who's got legs and
Yes.
likes to put himself about. We've got big John McGinn there. Ryan Jack's not playing because he's injured. Kieran Tierney's injured as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a couple of people. I didn't realise as well, this related to Pete, but they're trying to twist Elliot Anderson's arm.
Well, they've been doing this for a while, but Elliot Anderson went up to train with them, I think.
Yeah.
And I think he then, was he umming and ahhing, or he left the camp or something, and basically Steve Clark turned around and went, well, if you're not interested, then see you later, pal.
Well,
we want people who are completely committed.
Well, so Clark went on the record, I think in a press conference recently, and said, look, he's got a big decision to make.
Yeah.
Like, we would obviously pick him, but he's got a decision to make. So
okay.
they're putting it in his court. But it was a factor coming into this. I mean, you only really know, as with Che Adams, like qualify for it and then see who's interested.
Yeah, I know.
Harvey Barnes, another one who's eligible.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a coup, wouldn't it, if Scotland could get him?
Is it because Newcastle's closer to the border?
Could be. There we are, you see. it's all about the travel.
We know so much about domestic geographical politics, don't we? We're so across it.
I do.
Yeah.
You Londoners, though. But anyway, Scotland, yeah. So will they beat Spain? Will it even matter? We don't know. Tonight, though, Peter, Wales versus Gibraltar.
Oh, I never think anger, Rodri. Gibraltar, thoughts?
Hey, they should get a game for Euro 2028. That would annoy them. Do you think the Rock can beat Wales, Jim?
I don't think the Rock can beat Wales. No,
okay.
It's just a really interesting one to book in, isn't it?
It is.
They were annoyed recently at having to play a friendly, weren't they? Because there's that strange situation where Wales were. Yeah, when there's a set of qualifiers, if you for some reason only have one due to a quirk of the calendar, you have to play a friendly on one of the other days.
You have to play Belgium.
They were really angry about it. It's like they've booked a sarcastic one in response to that. It's like, all right, we'll play fucking Gibraltar then.
You don't have to. Yeah, no, it's fine.
We're playing Soccer Raid. All right.
Do they play an aside who they just think, yeah, fine, like they'll be able to just wave them through passport control easy.
Where are you playing it? At League Two ground?
Yeah. Rob Page is like, give me a game where I don't have to turn up to. That's basically it. Yeah, they're playing at Wrexham's racecourse ground. It's only the second international game to be held there in 15 years. It was quite a popular spot, wasn't it, Wrexham's ground? Am I right in saying for many decades ago for Wales games? But anyway, Rob Page is expected to bring in Charlie Savage to make his first start for Wales.
Robbie Savage has got a call up as well for this one, I believe.
Is that right?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. 50 Cent has made his foray finally into Welsh football, sponsoring a Welsh under-14s football team. Who will provide some of the Wales team for that game? No, they're not going to.
He's a very adult rapper, isn't he?
He is.
You don't want under 14s.
Yeah, it's become a really strange kind of badge of honour amongst entrepreneurial types, isn't it?
Right,
to have some sort of Welsh football involvement, it would seem.
Well, yeah, I mean, because of what's happened with Wrexham.
Yeah.
I think people just see it as like, oh, that's cool. I'll just
do that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so what is the sponsorship? Just buying a couple of kits?
It's G-Unit, isn't it? I
Sorry,
remember
it's
the clothing brand from my youth, because off in the distance, people wearing that. It's like, does that say? Oh no, okay.
Yeah. So is it? So are they closed G-Unit clothes then? Or they just
no?
G-Unit sneakers.
It's a kit sponsor. They're not like
right.
wearing
Okay,
hoodies
sorry.
on the pitch.
I thought he may have had a clothing line that he.
All right,
It's just a vest.
It's just a vest and a gun. A vest and a gun and a big pair of trousers.
Also, like, yeah, as you say, he's
50 cents, big pair of trousers.
It's a very tight tank top as well, tight white tank top. But yeah, as Jim says, like, he's quite an adult rapper. One of those kids are like listening to Candy Shop. It's not strictly about a candy shop.
No, absolutely right. He is a disgrace. All right, let's take a quick break.
Chaps.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was old McGinn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Johnny McGinn. Right, we're going to start with an email from Paul Hamley, who said, this question is very much for Marcus C. Speller to enjoy. Well, I'll decide, Paul. Now that Gareth's beautiful boys are in charge of La Liga and Bundesliga, who should we send to Italy and France to sort out their leagues? So we are going to disrespect everybody,
Yeah, we
Jim.
really
I
are.
like it.
Mr. Blobby.
Mr. Blobby.
Yeah.
Bergerac.
Well, Bergerac's in
He's
the
many-
Channel Islands. Leave him there.
Well, he's accessible to Europe then, isn't he?
We need someone just in that middle bit.
Okay, fine.
Who would you say? I mean, we tried to send Joey Barton and then Joe Cole to differing.
That's
effects.
true.
Well, we've got Andy Carroll in France, so that should sort itself out.
No, but not in Ligue 1. Maybe next season.
Yeah, but if you know he's coming, you sort yourself out, don't you?
True enough. I think most people in France are unaware of Andy Carroll being in their country. So yes, who should we send? I mean, Italy. Well, Tomori, I would say.
He's out there representing.
Some
You
of
know,
his
you
time.
could say that. Ruben Loftus-Cheek's
Yeah.
gone out there, but I mean, I suppose maybe more Gareth Southgate stalwarts. The land of great defending. Get Harry Maguire over there to show him how it's done.
Yeah.
You know, how about that?
The Leaning Tower of Maguire,
Oh, Peter.
heading balls away from his defence.
Right. And what about France, Jim? Who would you send to France?
Well, I think we've already got Andy Carroll there, as you say,
Mhm.
and I think you're unwise to disregard that so quickly. Who would we send to France?
Clarkson.
Yeah, there you are.
There we are.
Jeremy Clarkson.
Jeremy Clarkson. I was trying to think, essentially, who is the most Brexit footballer? But they're all managers, aren't they? Get Big Sam out there, actually.
Warnock. Come on, he's out of a job, isn't he?
There you are, you see. All makes sense, everybody. Right, back on the domestic front. Birmingham City have sacked John Eustace. This was a slight surprise for some Birmingham fans. I think there's a bit of a mixed reaction, but some were unhappy with this, certainly, because he saved them from relegation last year. They're currently in the playoff spots. They had a decent win against West Brom on the weekend, but it wasn't enough, and the Birmingham owners said that Eustace's sort of vision and wants, if you like, for the club don't align with theirs. But this does coincide.
The playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you want to win the league. We want to go up through the play. We want a day out of Wembley. But this coincides with Wayne Rooney leaving his post in the States, of course, and Rooney is now being heavily linked to the job. Is set to earn 3 times more than Eustace, according to reports. Birmingham co-owner Tom Brady reportedly likes the idea of a famous football figure like Rooney joining his new project.
This whole co-owner thing is like he's got a very small stake, hasn't he? Which allows essentially people to claim he's the essentially the owner.
Yeah.
But he's not really.
Yeah, so I mean that could just be paid.
They basically have his number in their phone. That, look, he's a mate.
Yeah.
We chat all the time.
Exactly.
Look at his funny WhatsApp photo.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? I mean, Rooney back in England managing Birmingham City. Obviously, people were impressed with what he did at Derby in very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, we should really start from the Birmingham City John Eustace side of it, where you said that some people were upset about it. I think there was a blanket wide surprise about it.
Yeah.
And then I think with the what they call the Shelby Group, aren't they? This kind of the holding company, and we talked about this before on the show when this takeover actually happened, and a Birmingham City fan got in touch and said, actually, the group is a bit more Birmingham aligned, and like it might seem funny because of Peaky Blinders, but that's
it is funny.
It's it's something that locally that has been taken to, and it is a sincere thing.
Yeah.
This is quite an insincere moment, I'd say, in terms of getting rid of a guy who, regardless of what he did last year, has got them in a pretty sound position now in 6th, considering where a lot of bigger teams in the Championship are at this point of the season. And obviously we know it's a league of great flux and whatever. But it does strike me as a bit like you would make the change now because this is a solid position, so someone could at least consolidate this or take it a bit further on. And also you just want a name.
Yeah.
Because ultimately this
That's
is what it comes
feels
for.
like,
Yeah.
Almost a stunt casting.
Yeah.
It's not like Rooney doesn't have any pedigree as a manager, but you wonder why.
It's not great pedigree though, is it?
No, but
He doesn't have a
wonder why
huge-
he's coming in now at all, especially on 3 times the salary. It all feels a bit like laying the groundwork for a documentary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's
That's
exactly
the only
what it
reason
is.
why
That's
people
exactly
do
what
this
it
sort of
is.
thing. They found out that Rooney was coming because his son Kai started following a load of Birmingham footballers on Instagram.
People always give themselves away.
People
don't
should
they?
be on leashes. I truly believe that. Just
There are
leave
surely like
children
7
on
or 8
the internet
steps
alone.
before those 2 things. In your mind. I would
Just
like
turn the
a detailed
internet off.
explanation of.
Turn the internet off.
Oh,
Why people are really
Weirdos.
genuinely, and I say this as someone who's quite active on Instagram. People are dull as shit on Instagram.
Mm.
Footballers especially. Why do you need to follow them on Instagram?
Let's see what's going on.
See what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with that?
I'm not gonna fucking actually go there.
Yeah.
Is there any footballers? Are there any footballers on Instagram that actually exhibit any kind of humour? Because I'm always surprised that like the rest of John Cena is regarded as being very dull, very sort of safe hand kind of corporate businessman. But him on like Instagram, he's a bit of a shit poster, which I quite appreciate. He loves shit posting.
Emerson Royale's really good.
Yes,
as we know. 'Cause
okay.
He posts all kinds of interesting stuff. Jose Mourinho is brilliant as well.
Yeah.
Mourinho's good, but I
But
think
you kind of get a sense that they're done by committee and stuff.
exactly,
Maybe, yeah.
exactly.
Also good on Instagram and good on Twitter. Martin Deroon,
Right, okay.
Atalanta,
Yeah.
very funny.
Now, speaking of interesting owners at football clubs, an Australian businessman who I suppose he still is on a European gap year, isn't he? This chap who's decided to invest in Southend United. It saved the club, really. There's a consortium there. It was a fascinating story. I think that he was in Santiago de Compostela, having just done the Camino out in northern Spain, and he saw what was happening with Southend United, and being a big football fan, he went, "Well, this can't happen. This is a club with enormous history. He's been around for years." And so Justin Rees, who made his money in corporate IT, got himself together with a 5-person consortium, and boom, there they are at Southend. And Southend I think they won on the weekend, and was it on a Friday night they won or something? And suddenly the whole situation's been turned round.
If you want a documentary, Southend Airport can accommodate many private jets.
Oh yes, I did.
And they fly over my house every single morning.
I tell you what, do we need more Aussies in football? Because on the shores,
they're just helping it.
Well, so far,
Yeah.
2 Aussies that have come and come to these shores to help out tactically and financially.
I mean, to be fair, Southend United's protest was throwing a load of rats onto the pitch, or waving a load of rats last.
Isn't that real
not
rats?
real.
No. Rubber rats. Where do you get rubber rats at such scale?
Yeah.
And they're all identical models. I couldn't figure it out.
It's quite impressive.
Who got all rubber rats?
I'm still picturing people waving live rats.
Yeah.
Surely. Oh, I don't want to start saying what people should.
What
start
if one of the
throwing on
rats,
pitch.
one of the rats got on one of the players' heads, and like Ratatouille was really good at football.
Yes.
And then they got to the top flight. They got to the
Got
Premier
the top
League.
flight because of Ratatouille, man,
Yeah.
the footballer. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're like, "What's that under your hat? Leave it. Goal."
Now, gentlemen, let us talk about the new 4-part documentary Beckham, which was released last week on Netflix. Have you seen it?
I watched every last episode, and I think my partner was a little more part than I was about how football-y it was. It ticked a lot of boxes football-y wise.
It is a strange one, isn't it? What he's done with the documentary, because, like, it's a documentary about himself. So when people say it's a PR exercise, well, inevitably, that's kind of going to.
It's called Beckham.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so don't be too surprised. The chap, what's his name? Fisher Stevens, who's
Played a brown man a while ago.
in Short Circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that who Fisher? Is that who is talking all the time?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I mean,
okay,
because
yes.
Not doing the accent, Pete. That's why you don't recognise it.
Yeah, he's doing his American accent rather than
Astonishing bit of
But he some of the comments he makes, I would say, are very, very American.
Yeah.
Now, I like America and I like American things, but when you're talking to David Beckham, and I
Or Sir
understand
Alex Ferguson.
or Sir Alex Ferguson, or Diego Simeone, or all these sort of characters,
Johnny Five.
Yeah, no, he used a very different accent for that. We should say.
Okay.
It is quite strange. But so the whole PR thing, obviously, that's going to be close. Blah 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 blah. But it's funny because I was thinking, who is this? Because at times I think, is this more for an American audience? And then you think, but there is a lot of football, and there's a lot of his former teammates, Neville and Keane. And you think, and who is it for? And he literally says in the documentary, "This is for my family," so they have like a record of my career.
Don't put it on Netflix then.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, obviously, it is a puff piece, and we judge it on those terms. I think it's fair to say.
But look at his little face.
There are a famous accusation of philandering that they don't really go into very much.
Do we really want, for want of a better phrase, a blow-by-blow account of that sort of thing?
No, but I'm just saying that it is stark that's one of the big stories and the big aspect of his life that was, really problematic for that family.
Yeah.
And, understandably, you don't want to give oxygen to it, but there is a certain thing of going, there's no denials and there's no... I think it was stark that was brushed over so quickly when the distance between a wife and a husband was so much of that documentary, which I think was very interesting.
Yeah. Part of me, when I finished, I thought, they didn't reveal that much then. But at times I thought, I didn't know that it was... Yeah, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there was plenty of '90s nostalgia in this, so it's always going to win me over somewhat.
I think there is too much football, as Pete's partner said.
There is quite a lot of football. I mean, I thought the episode they vilified Glenn Hoddle a lot.
Yeah.
So sort of to drill down to certain bits in the documentary, that there was a lot of chat around the sending off, of course, against Argentina in the '98 World Cup, because that was such a huge thing in his career and has probably shaped him a bit, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolutely essential part of Brian Beckham because the redemption arc absolutely cemented him as not just a star but a superstar.
And I
someone
think
who's
to come back from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
immediately interesting.
The treatment that he got, and the treatment that England players got over the years. Why would you ever come back?
Yeah.
Why would you ever want to captain England? Why would you ever want to play again for that when you're treated that poorly for? How old was he? 22? Like he's
23,
kicking out.
I think. He was early 20s at the time. I mean, yeah, I think that goes into a very, very ugly sort of bit of national psyche. I would say it was more. I would hope and think it was more prevalent back then, because I don't think a player would get anywhere near that now. Although people are talking about Harry Maguire, and Beckham recently phoned Harry Maguire and chatted to him, which Maguire appreciated. But I think the two are very different. And I think the abuse and the vile sort of almost like
the effigies of him.
That absolute big slug bloke.
Yeah,
who's like hung an effigy outside his pub and couldn't understand why the police made him take it down.
Yeah,
it's not mine. I borrowed it.
Ridiculous, ain't it?
Yeah.
I sort of forgot the level of abuse, but of course, when I was, witnessing that, I was much younger. You digest stuff differently then.
Also,
as a teenager.
we were hanging out in different.
Don't say hanging out.
No, but we were hanging out in different places, weren't we? Whereas, like now, we'd see it because we'd be privy to it in the pub or something like that. But at the time, I think it happens. We see it on the news.
Yeah.
I didn't really see too many front pages when I was, walking around being driven to school or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing,
did your driver not read them to you?
Always the Financial Times. But the thing that you've noticed, where we are now with Maguire is like the way people join in, without actually having a strong opinion about the bloke, which is what was happening back then.
Massively. It was just like sort of like common knowledge, wasn't it, that Beckham was a snake and he was this and that he'd cost us the World Cup and
all that
et cetera. The amount of leaps that you had to do to think that he cost us a chance of winning that World Cup are ridiculous.
Lost on pens.
Yeah,
Score your fucking pens, dickhead.
Yeah, and the lionesses showed you how you do that, by the way, when James was sent off. But one of the things was around that, Jim, about him being chucked under the bus and so on, by Glenn Hoddle, the England manager. Glenn Hoddle. Now, this is I find interesting. I thought it was a shame that Hoddle was not on the documentary to talk about it.
Do you want to flesh it out a bit, because I didn't
Glenn
realize,
Hoddle, England manager.
Yeah, I didn't realise the scale of it until I watched the
So
documentary.
Glenn Hoddle's England manager. Glenn Hoddle at the time, obviously was quite young as an England manager then, very young. And there was always chat that Hoddle still thought he was the man in training when they played. Hoddle was a great player. He felt that he was always slightly underappreciated, which he probably was, although I wasn't watching football at that time, or was some of it wasn't even barely sentient, but that was the feeling, that he was this flashier player. Obviously went off to play abroad and so on and did good things there. Blah de blah de blah. He eventually ends up England manager. Of course, a lot of people will know this, and Beckham,
bit of an ego. He's got a bit of an ego.
Had, I would say, and that's what I find a shame that he wasn't on the documentary, because Glenn Hoddle is, I would argue passionately, is a changed man. You think about, Jules obviously works with him. We know Jules and talks about, he's a lovely fella and everybody else. I met him 10 years after this in 2008 when I was a runner at Sky Sports, and he was the only one that would look you in the eye and talk to you and actually talk to you on your level. And people might say, well, obviously he's going to do that. Well, actually, in that environment, when you have Richard Keys and all these dinosaurs around and some other ex-footballers, they didn't even acknowledge you. So I thought it was really interesting that actually Hoddle came across as much more personable and friendly. And I think that after this whole episode, and of course he would then be sacked. I think I'm pretty sure he was sacked, wasn't he, as England manager? It wasn't a mutual thing. It was a sacking. I think Hoddle massively changed because he was accused of being arrogant and so on. And in training, Beckham said in his book, it got to the point where some of the players, he would join in the sessions and some of them would see how hard they could go in on him, because he would sometimes say, which is crazy, but he wouldn't do that with Roy Hodgson. But some people
get decked, as we learned.
Some people would say that the reports were that Beckham would try and do something. He would go, "No, David, you do it like this in front of everybody," because I think Hoddle probably saw a bit of himself in Beckham.
Beckham idolised him.
He did idolise him, and so you had all that kind of stuff. But I think Hoddle now is a very changed character and has been for many years.
Well, it sounds like Marcus is very much Team Hoddle on this particular.
Well, I wasn't back then. I thought Hoddle handled it very, very poorly,
and he did. And Beckham was talking about back then.
Yeah. I mean that's he threw him under the bus, and Victoria Beckham makes a very good point. He was a man David Beckham was 22.
Yeah.
He's a child, and he had to deal with the fallout. I mean, like,
Shame that Tony Adams didn't get a mention because Beckham said around that time Adams was the only one who put his arm around him, and he said Tony Adams was brilliant with me. When he walked into the dressing room, or everybody walked in because he was in there already, they were gutted, and he said, I said to Alan Shearer, I'm so sorry, Alan. He said he didn't even look at him. You know, like the players were really, really pissed off, but Tony Adams was the one. But I understand in a documentary, I can't cover every blade of grass.
I think what was really stark for me, like, I'm 42. You are of an age where you're thinking about what kind of father you might become, or the one you would be. And I think Beckham's relationships with Sir Alex Ferguson and his father. I'm not a high functioning, successful man. But obviously, all of these men are.
Well, if you're not, what makes that?
I know exactly. But I just sort of think that, like,
exactly
is like watching this sort of Beckham sausage being made through the lens of his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson and his dad. Are successful male father-son relationships quite fucking toxic? Like, it was all
high
a bit
pressure and, like,
fucking
reward-based
shit, wasn't it? It was all just. It wasn't even reward-based. It was just like ignoring anything good you do and slating you when you do something bad. And I was just a bit like, do we really need to be fucking doing this?
Well, the reward being not slated.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. It was
just all a bit.
It's an old-fashioned approach, certainly.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. But, like, do you look at Alex Ferguson there and sort of go, "Oh, brilliant," or do you look at David Beckham's dad and go, "Brilliant"?
Well,
I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think to
and when he loses these father figures
Ferguson
in football,
and Beckham's.
He's just a bit listless and he's a bit kind of lost by his own admission.
Yeah,
I think it's why you get. So one of the saddest bits in the documentary for me, and it was sad at the time, and I properly welled up when I watched it again, is when he walked off the field at PSG.
Yeah,
when he retires.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he can't breathe for the 5 minutes before because he's been told he's going to be taken off 10 minutes before.
Yeah,
and 5 minutes before the point where he's about to be substituted, he is basically hyperventilating because he's so upset, and he walks off. And he was, 37, I think, at the time?
Late 30s.
He's a child.
Yeah.
He walks off a blubbering child, and it broke my heart to see him like that. Because also, you remember as well that football requires a lot of sacrifice. It requires basically, essentially a very difficult relationship with the people around you, including your parents. And despite all that he's achieved and all the places he's been, all the things he's seen, he is broken by the fact that he can never do that again.
That's right.
And I appreciate that it's because of the sacrifice and the love as well. But I think that really hit home that, like, even he's like that.
Yeah.
Even the guy who's done everything is like that.
Well, when
that's
you said
really quite harrowing in a way.
When you said
I do that when I get subbed at 11s.
yeah.
But there's a sense, isn't there?
Thank you.
David Beckham had a lot of injuries, and a lot of different types of injuries as well, and the fact that
He had a few. I think there are other players.
I
don't think his career would be defined by that.
Snapped Achilles and things like that.
Yeah, but I don't
snapped an
think
Achilles?
towards the end of his career, it's not the same as, say, I don't know, Alan Shearer or somebody.
And
like
I
that.
didn't say it was, but leading into my point, which is that the idea that your body now can't handle something that your brain is still sharp enough to do, and that your passion is still there for, must be so difficult. There's simply no escaping it because it is physically you. And could you imagine the feeling, the emotions of that as you are kind of leaving the pitch in that final motion?
Yeah, and I think it was. You said there was too much football in it. From one point of view, I understand, but actually, I loved, in particular, the bit with Manchester United. Just everybody reminding themselves or being reminded what a player he was.
I think that's crucial because there's a narrative around David Beckham from people that aren't necessarily that into football where they're like, oh, he wasn't actually that good, was he? He was a bit of a pop star footballer.
Yeah,
and I think it's good that the documentary makes the space to refute that.
Yeah, I think you've got to get it right. I think when he goes to Real Madrid and he's a Galactico in that team, Beckham didn't reach the heights of Zidane. I would probably say Figo, was probably that touch better as well. Before Messi and Ronaldo, you had Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, Fenomeno, and a few other players. Kaká, a teammate. Would he have played with Qatar at Milan? Possibly. I'm not sure. Maybe he'd gone by then. But you had that bracket of players that had all sort of won the world's best player in that. And Beckham got close. I don't think Beckham is in that bracket. So I don't want to over-egg this and suddenly go, oh, he's an all-time great. He was a very, 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 very good footballer. He is in that bracket where Lampard and Gerrard and Scholes, perhaps. Maybe Scholes, people might a notch higher.
Did that not give that Galacticos era of Real Madrid when they go into it there? Did that not give you a real certainly gave me a real good insight into what being a top level footballer, and I mean like upper echelons top level footballer was like.
Yeah.
Because now it's like it seems quite individualistic. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They were clearly all in it together.
Yeah.
So like I know you talked about he's definitely not at Ronaldo's level, definitely not at Zidane's level. As you said, Figo a bit higher, but they all kind of like identified with each other.
Well, I think they knew
like going out for a beer.
Yeah.
Even, like the other thing I loved, like an offshoot of this, I always had in my head that the rivalry with him and Figo was quite pronounced.
No,
not at all.
no.
Like the way Figo talks about him on there, and obviously Figo says, fuck it, I'm not giving this up for him.
But Figo was almost like he often comes across as like an elder statesman of the game sometimes.
Yeah.
It was
He looks like
not an elder one
fucking
there.
Dan. Look at his chin. His chin's got even more pronounced as he's gotten older.
I forgot how elfish he looked as a player.
A phenomenal player he was.
Speaking of Elvish, like the ex-Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer popping in every now and again, like a wise little wood elf.
That
was
nice.
Hello,
You know
everyone.
What? But that's done
I'm
really
charming.
well. The documentary makers have done that really well, because the first thing Gary Neville says is, "I never really liked nightclubs," which is the perfect first thing to him to say. And the first time you see Roy Keane, he's dunking a biscuit into some tea, and that seems
Unbelievable.
incongruous.
Yeah.
It's really, really well made in quite subtle ways.
There's a lot of like lovely little Easter eggs for the football fan. But I mean, this documentary unfortunately will lead to another generation of men thinking that they should shave their fucking heads. I did it when Beckham did it.
Did you?
I had it for 10 years. Doesn't work. Don't do it.
He's a bit like David Bowie, isn't he? There's lots of different eras of Beckham.
Yes,
and his looks.
and he's just beautiful. Has anyone ever taken a bad picture of David Beckham? I'd like to find
think
one.
you
His son, maybe.
Yes.
I just a few points of.
Could I just quickly say on Neville, Gary Neville? Obviously, the first time you see him in the documentary, he gets pelters from someone random in the street, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll keep that in."
The man cannot win. Someone has to go at his scarf.
But also, I have to say, what a good friend.
Yeah. My girlfriend and I both thought that while watching it. We both made the same point at the same time. It comes across so clearly, doesn't it, that this is a really loyal guy.
Yeah, and like when he talks about it and gets emotional in real time, and then you sometimes, occasionally they flash back to Gary Neville's press conferences as a player where he's asked about Beckham, and he answers them so well.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Like, genuinely, what a good friend he is.
Gentlemen, let us move on from David Beckham, who is, of course, a retired footballer, to another retired footballer, Eden Hazard, retired from football at the age of 32.
We're saying goodbye to everyone, aren't we? R.I.P. Booty Man.
Yeah. He's been a free agent since leaving Real Madrid in the summer. He has only played, 70 appearances for Real Madrid in that time.
He's kind of came back from injury at really
2019.
unfortunate times where Real Madrid have been quite good.
But
and
he's had
obviously
terrible
got a lot
injuries.
of competition for his place.
He was accused of being a little bit out of shape when he turned up. I don't know. It's a bit of a shame that it didn't quite happen for him at Real Madrid. There was injuries, but there were accusations about his attitude and so on and so forth.
Which I'm broadly okay with.
I like it.
And I think I kind of love that.
I think this shouldn't define his legacy.
No, I mean, when you say you're okay with it, yes, for the bants and the lols. But I mean, if you have spent, in a deal of up to 150 million on someone, and they're not really putting it in, you can understand.
But you know what Real Madrid are like? They do this all the time. They did it with Gareth Bale. They do it with everybody. Like they do it with everyone.
Yeah, but I would question Gareth Bale's attitude as well.
Who doesn't live and breathe football. I think that's the main thing. I think we're uncomfortable as football fans with players who don't necessarily think that your life starts and ends with football. And it's proven. Like I think it's not helped by the fact he looks a bit like Tom Hanks' shitty son Chet.
Yeah.
And also he clearly there would have been like loads of cash on the table to go to Saudi Arabia, and he's just went, nah, I'm all right, I'm done. And I love that about him. And he was, for me, he was always that kind of that Chelsea player where it made me feel a bit. Him and Juan Mata and Petr Cech, I like them, but they're Chelsea.
Yeah.
I feel done.
What you got against Chelsea?
Need to go to confession, Father. This penitent man needs to confess.
Hazard.
I have coveted a Chelsea player.
I think Hazard, when he played at Chelsea in the Premier League, it was like we had one of the stars of the game,
the very best.
He was. If oddly, I think I don't know if this is just me, but I kind of forget him when I think of the sort of recent greats in the Premier League.
Really?
And when I'm quickly reminded, then I'm like, oh my goodness, it's my shame that I forget him. I'm not saying that he was forgettable. He was magnificent at Chelsea.
No, I'm just surprised by that because there are so many highlight reel moments. Also, just his touch, which obviously is, you know, the building block of everything that he did, really. But his first touch was always immaculate. And like, you know, Pete mentioned his arse at the start, and Yahya Toure. There's a great video of Yahya Toure and Declan Rice talking about how his arse was like a, you know,
special
part
weapon.
of his suit. Yeah, it's a special weapon. It helped him get around people. But also, you know, I'm thinking about the goal against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge and various other things where he would just do, and also the goal in that one game that season, he turned it on against Spurs for Leicester City to win the league. But he was actually, those moments were of greater frequency, throughout a season. He was probably if you're gonna really and truly build like the best technical 11 to have played in the Premier League, I think he's got to be in with a shout.
Oh, definitely. I think that's it. I think he's. I mean, what a dribbler as well.
Yeah, he had so much power to his game.
Yeah,
really dominant for a forward player as well. Like he had the sort of had the kind of the power you might associate with a more defensively minded player, which made him such a handful to deal with.
He didn't care.
He could go up against defenders and just wasn't a mismatch.
Yeah, he didn't care for the defensive side of the game too much, but you know, you could understand why.
Because it was all forward facing.
Yeah. I mean, he won everything other than the Champions League, really, at Chelsea. He would get a Champions League winners' medal at Real Madrid, but I mean, he didn't contribute too much to their campaign. So, yeah, I think that in this country, we have such a body of work for him that's how he'll be remembered. I think it's a shame, perhaps in the wider context, certainly in Spain, you know, they didn't see much of the Eden Hazard that we saw. But he is one of the best players that has played in the top flight in England in recent years. Like, make no mistake about that. And, you know, that is some accolade. And to be crowned player of the season as well. I know this sounds a bit of a stupid thing to say, but there are many, many great players who have played in the Premier League, who have had great longevity in the Premier League, who never won that accolade. To be crowned out of everybody, and whatever individual awards people can scorn and scoff at them, for someone to say, no, you've been the best this season is quite something. So, yeah, he even though he's not been really in the football world for a little while, I think he will be missed. So there we are. And that's the note we're going to finish on today, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble, part of the Acast Creator Network. Patreon subscribers, don't go anywhere. Keep listening for Ramble Uncut. If you're not signed up yet, get over to Patreon by hitting the link in the show notes. And big news, everybody. You can now access and download all of our ad-free shows and bonus Patreon content on Spotify, so there is absolutely no excuse not to sign up. And, of course, follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Football Ramble. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Petey.
Ta-ta.
Thank you, Vishy.
Thank you.
And thank you, David Beckham. See you soon.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.